the international community to come and rescue them from their inevitable defeat. So this reality has been forgotten after 3 years, 4 years. Now we are talking about numbers, whereas the reality, the ground situation that prevailed at the time has eventually been forgotten. That's why I said that the arguments that are put forward in most forums are completely divorced from the actual ground reality that we have today.
You know, to that a couple of things. One is that when the first no-fly zone was declared, we've actually woken up the next morning, my minister was by the head of the UN. You know, now there's an attempt by what I would call the unilateral of the UN to blame the senior members of the UN who did a lot of force. The claim of they didn't care. They rang us up and said, look, your army is firing into the no-fly zone. My minister called up the army. The army said they weren't. Two things happened during that day. The Bishop of Jaffna issued a public statement asking the LTTE to remove its weapons from the no-fly zone into which it had brought them. Secondly, the UN sent us a text saying, for information, most of the firing came from the LTTE. Now, the very interesting thing is, as Ron said, there is a lacuna here. I looked through the ICRC descriptions of what to do when there is a no-fly zone which the LTT doesn't subscribe to. You see, I think the original question, Savitri, was about
the question is how many soldiers have to come.
I forgot the original question. I'll come to the next one. Her first question was, should terrorists be held accountable? And I think the point is that we actually, when we took in the 11,000, we thought that many of them, you know, there were categories A, B, C, D, F, G, that ABC would be tried. Government later decided that actually almost all would be free on the grounds that even though they had done things, they were driven into it. But the lacuna which I discussed with the ICRC is when you have a no-fly zone into which someone has agreed to the no-fly zone bringing weapons, they are not guilty of a crime against the no-fly zone. How do you hold them accountable? There's a bit of a difficulty there. But your second question, which is a very good question, I think requires an answer. And I think the problem, what has really initiated this whole business, I always said, I mean, I was, 4 years ago, I said, that 5 years should be trying. The President told the Attorney General to bring an indictment, he said, I'll lose the case. He said, doesn't have to lose it, bring it. But on this, the real problem is, because there are so many wild allegations, in the Darussalam report in particular, I think the army feels difficult. I think you have to go with the LLRC, which indicates that on 4 of the charges, there is really no prima facie case. But on the 5th, they do say you should investigate. I think there should be an investigation. I think it should be quick, but I think it's also worth bearing in mind that the investigations into the atrocities in Iraq and so on for 5 years, and the investigations into Sunday by the Sunday are still not complete. That was in 1976. So military takes time. But I take the point that there needs to be, well, we know that there's a prima facie case, there needs to be more investigation, and if necessary,
questions? Yes. It's very nice that we are sitting here, a mature audience, and we've discussed this openly. As far as what I got was, this was a question, the question was, who counts the body? Relates to all over the world, wherever we have had conflict. But sitting in Sri Lanka, yes, we've gone through this, and it's this thing. We've got to know who counts the bodies, and yes, some of us feel international, I wouldn't say pressure, help or assistance should be there. Some of us feel that the governments are mature enough to handle it. My question, coming back to our main question, is we all know who's counting the bodies now, but from what period are you counting the bodies? Is it just the armed conflict or the period that led to that armed conflict between the two forces? The period where there were suicide bombings, are you counting from the initial period, or the figures that we are seeing are only for these years? That's my question.
Thank you, ma'am, for that question. I take the liberty to give our perspective. You are very right. We are only talking about a specific period of the conflict. The conflict that has gone on for more than 27 years. And all those atrocities that happened during that time has been at that, everybody knows what the LTT has done, and I don't want to go on repeating the same thing. And I've left some CDs and books outside. You can, on your way out, please pick them, and you can see the figures there itself. So, right, we have forgotten the actual scene.
So the numbers are, when you say specific period, which period are we looking at?
No, she's asking about who counted the bodies before.
No, sorry, my question is, the count is from when the conflict actually started in small bursts, or the armed conflict which happened, which then finally led to the LTT being finished. We all know the means that the LTT resorted to were wrong. It has nothing to do with what ethnic background you are. Armed conflict anywhere is wrong. So my question is, are you counting the bodies? That's our main topic for today. From when it started in the 80s, if I'm not wrong, or from the 2008. That's my question.
We as a government are counting bodies from the day one, from 1981, the death of the first soldier, and from 1975, I believe, the death of Mr. Alfred Correa. So we count the bodies since then. I think we can't just leave those figures out.
Yeah, I'd like Caroline to, she asked a question earlier that wasn't addressed. I'd like you to reiterate the question. Can we have an answer to that, please?
You mean the question about how many soldiers of the Sri Lankan army were trying to today? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay. There are two cases that are being investigated that happened in Tripoli, and I think the papers are with the Attorney General's Department, and the Attorney General's Department is prosecuting those, I think some cases have been filed. But as I told you earlier, you can't just simply point out an individual for collateral damage. Channel 4, for example, has been giving various stories, but you can't prosecute people on those stories. There are who are you supposing to prosecute? Who can we prosecute? Just by looking at an image?
Yes, I think one of the problems all the Channel 4 has now become equivalent to the fifth gospel. As far as I'm concerned. I think you have to bear in mind that when the Channel 4 was first shown, we asked for the date, and it turned out that the metadata was all wrong. They said this happened in January, the metadata was July. Then people went over backwards to prove that you can substitute metadata. We have kept asking for them to tell us where this happened and which date. You know, we already have a case of two mistakes. We also found that the second Channel 4 film, contrary to what they told us, was edited. If you watched it carefully, and if you read the UN report on that, and let me actually advise you, please, that this is available on Sailor Vegetarian Pass for anyone who's interested in the truth. The Channel 4, the UN report said that it was edited backwards. Those of you who saw it may remember that the first scene had about 17 bodies, I didn't count exactly. And as the film progressed, the bodies came down to about 4. Now, this is a bit surprising. It turns out that the UN experts say that it was edited and spliced and put together backwards. Now there may be a very good reason to put together a film backwards. But why don't they explain to us why they did this? Why this film was edited to show things that were so strange? So I think the Channel 4 one, which is actually now seen as the biggest evidence against us, is clearly false, and I don't understand why people are not asking Channel 4. Please explain what's wrong. I don't know whether you know that when the UN wanted to investigate this, Channel 4 refused to send the original video. They got a copy. But this is the gospel now. But I take the point that I didn't know what's been suggested is that the areas that Ellen asked the outlines, I know you're not moving. One of the, let me say, never these stupid things the army did, and let me say it clearly. In January, I asked the army commander, what are you doing about the LRC report? And he said, I've appointed 2 commissions of inquiry. And I said, why don't you tell the world you've done this? And he said, no, you know, we don't publicize such things. So 1 month later, Robert Blake arrived in Sri Lanka. You know, Robert Blake is also achieving apostolic status now. And he spoke to the army commander who told him the same thing. And it very clear you are responding to their answer.
Let me, pardon me for
practicing that.
Let me respond to that allegation. I don't know.
Stupidity.
Okay. Let me respond to that stupidity. Allegation of stupidity. You see, the Sri Lanka army is organized, and the military laws are based on the military laws of the United Kingdom. We inherited the British Army traditions, British Army teachings, British Army Act virtually at the time of establishing the army in 1949. And there has been a case, if I remember right, in 1949, a case wherein there has been a, I can't remember, sir, I'm sorry, there's a lord of the Supreme Court has given a decision in 1949, you can refer that up in UK, British Army, that courts of inquiries are not public documents. Courts of inquiries are documents that are limited for the military purposes. So I can understand why the army commander has chosen not to publicize it, because it is the tradition thing that the military act prohibits from us deciding for
After the proceedings, he could have announced that the court had been appointed, and if he tells Robert Blake, that's not a secret anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
Just one last word, Kevin.
Yeah, I think maybe that explains why some people are calling for an external commission to investigate. I mean, that is part of the problem, maybe, that you may have findings that they don't publicize them. The other issue is, I think, still regarding the question that was repeated again. I think, you know, as you know, there's use ante bellum and there's use ante bellum. So there's the law of going to war when you have legitimate reasons to go to war, and yet there still is law inside the war, and you still have to apply that. So I think when you said earlier there's a form of law that's very different, there's not always clarity. I think that's not an explanation. I think we still have to have those laws inside the war that apply. And no matter how, you know, I've been to many wars enough to know how complicated and dirty it gets, but it's exactly why we have such things.
This is what Professor Wilson said, ma'am, there is investigation going on. There is investigation going on, only thing that we are not talking about it because it's a military internal process, and we are not here to discuss the internal military processes.
Thank you very much. Actually,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry. We could go on for another 2 hours on this. You know, we have a concert coming up in exactly 10 minutes. Sorry, so we really have to wrap up. Please speak to them privately outside or over there.